To come to order, and everyone is here of the trustees except Mary Ann, who is out of state on vacation. We won't inquire or we'll be jealous. And Emily, who is going to training on being a student trustee. So she's very excited about that. Welcome to everyone. And thank you for coming. This is brief for the moment because we're going to find out if we have any hearing of citizens and then go into closed session before we come back for the main public session. Angie?
No slips.
No slips? Nobody? Okay, then we will adjourn to closed session. Sorry for the gap for those of you who already showed up, but we will return fairly soon and rejoin you. Thanks. We are reconvening from our closed session, and there is no reportable action. So we will move to Category 4, Human Resources Consent Agenda Item.
She's not here today.
Pat's not here?
No. So Anthony was going to present them.
Anthony, do you want to be Pat?
Yeah, I can be Pat. This is really a routine item. It's kind of an omnibus action item that permits us to hire short-term temporary employees, student workers and such.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Peter moves, second.
Second.
Marty, second. Any questions, comments? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, now we get to hear the foundation financial report. Jeff Green. Welcome, Jeff.
Good afternoon. So I figure we'll start. What you have in the packet is actually the May 31, 2016 numbers, and that's because as of the time that packet materials were needed, we had not yet gotten preliminary numbers for June 30. And so since that's what you have, I will speak to that, but I will tell you that today we were able to generate our June 30 numbers, our preliminary, so I'll maybe give you a few comparisons. The short version is close to budget on most counts. We were projecting an under term of what looks like 12% on these notes for restricted funds raised for the year. We ended up a little bit higher than that, just shy of budget. It looks like about 8.5% under rather than 12, so that was a good thing. On the actual investments, which of course is the majority of the financial activity for the foundation, as you know, it was an incredibly unusual year and not a particularly stable year. That being said, we ended up doing fairly well given what we were working with. Our long-term investments did actually have an increase, but they were that was zeroed out by some of our unrealized losses on some of our short-term investments as well as some CRTs that we hold. So what we looked with was a nearly flat year. When you look at the 531 projection of net assets of $52,730,000, I can tell you as of today, the actual number in our preliminaries is $52,256,000. So there was really very little change from the projections that you have in front of you for us. Scholarship payout was at about $1 million, and other program payout was at about 2.8. The scholarships were about as expected. We had some returned undistributed funds. And then there were a couple of larger distributions that had happened the prior year that did not happen this past year. So that largely accounts for the drop in restricted program distributions for the college. Let's go on to 2 pages down to maybe the income statement, and that's where some of the more important pieces are. If you look at the income statement from May 31st, you are seeing the program support number as that first bolded line, and then you're seeing the unrestricted operational support number as that second. And of course, you all know that that has been a long-standing challenge. The good news I can report to you is that our Visionary Circle contributions, which we had a goal of going from really the bottom of the last 20 years number to the top, We succeeded at that, so we crossed the $350,000 mark, which was the goal. That's important not because it's such a big number in the context of the 50 million, but because it's an indicator of donor buy-in, and that's long-term unrestricted donors who would repeat their gifts to the college. So that's a really positive indicator. We did not choose to do a gala event in last fiscal year. We will be doing it this fiscal year, so you see that $125,000 income line that's just titled event income was effectively zero, and that was by virtue of the choice not to pursue that at all, not because we had a really unsuccessful event, because that would be bad. But we looked there. If you look at the net asset number again, you can basically use that as a working number as accurate. We will have our first finance committee of the quarter, which will include our June 30 numbers next week. And we are aiming to do what we did last year, which is to have our audit completed by September 30th, so end of the first quarter, which I know is rapid, but we were able to do it last year, and it was a perfectly clean audit last year, and we're hoping for the same, which means we'll be in plenty of time to do the consolidated audit with the college. Any questions on those numbers before I leave those behind? Next time I'm before you, we'll be talking about the real numbers for June 30, so I can leave those for now. The other piece that I would like to share with you is something I just added, and I believe Angie handed out a hard copy, and I think we have it. It's about the promise, which of course will be playing a larger and larger role in our work for the coming years. This is today's data, and I think those of you who sit on our board know the data from just a few days ago. Well, today we crossed the 700 mark of students enrolled in the Promise from the district. So what you see there is really the highlights, but a couple of measures that I just wanted to point out for you that do have a relevance to our financial projection. We had, based on other regions' experience, projected an 80% opt-in rate for our local students if we did a full open access offer as we have for the Promise. We actually are at a 92% opt-in rate. That has a couple of implications. First of all, that means 92% of students are committing to be full-time, which is, of course, far greater than what historic normal would be. And it means that really the vast majority of all local students that come to City College will be full-time students. Now, after the census date, we expect that will adjust somewhat, and that's not a final number, but that 700 mark was actually a considerable amount over our initial projection. And of course, costs will be affiliated with that, but associated with that, we won't know that until really the end of the fall semester. The other ones, as you can see, we did a breakdown for you of the source, the origin high schools, and you can see the top three, as expected, are the three primary public high schools in the district, and then you can see some of the other high schools making up that total 701, but 81.8% of the enrolled students are from the Santa Barbara Unified School District public schools. And then the BOG waiver question, which is of course part of the economic model of how this will work. We now have 55% of this cohort already approved for BOG waivers. We have 21% who are not eligible, and we have 23% not yet applied. So that's the group that we'll be spending some time with to make sure folks do that. That is also one of the requirements. We also wanted to take note of students enrolling in different services and support programs on campus. So what you see there is the DSPS number, the Disabled Students Program number, and that's about 7%. We're trying to get the final EOPS, the SPARK numbers, the transition numbers, those that participated in Running Start, et cetera. So this is just a snapshot of the data. Dr. Beebe and I have been talking about how we want to measure this. Robert Else and a few of my staff and others will be meeting shortly, along with Dr. Jarrell, to talk about how we measure what we measure along the way. So that's all I have for you today.
Questions, folks?
No?
Have there, and you may not be the person to ask, have there been any difficulties along the way establishing eligibility?
No, other than information flow and just sort of what we historically have tracked and what we'll need to track for this. And the beauty of it is we have this implementation group that's been meeting since March regularly, the leadership of several of the key departments on campus. And it's really been a wonderful tool to make sure that when something comes up, we fix it pretty rapidly. So between the outreach folks and the counseling department and the IT folks and enrollment and admissions and records, I mean, we've had a really great group that have all tried to fix it. So as of today, there's really nothing that stands as a barrier. And on my teams, Lucille Bosch Ramirez has been our lead person there. So,
Jonathan?
For the eligible number, is it people who meet all three criteria or one of them?
All three. So there are actually 7 criteria for the promise. It's the one on that one sheet that we've been using and on the website. And so the 1381 are eligible students who had applied to SPCC at some time since graduation in this last class. The 762 are those who actually have proceeded to enroll. And of those 762, the 701 are the opted in, and to opt in, you have to have all 7 criteria met. So 12 months within graduation, local graduate, agreement to full-time, agreement to take advantage of an education plan and academic enrollment, pursuing a BOG waiver, et cetera.
Just a follow-up question. So the other half, the other 50%, we didn't get into the Promise program. Is it because they might have went to UC because they got accepted, or?
Yeah, the key number really isn't the 1381 so much as the 762. So yeah, the difference between those are those who have not, ever since applying for admissions, they've done nothing else. And so we assume in most cases, based on history, that that's because they've chosen to do another path or not go at all. But we're basically that percentage, that 80% target that's now 92 is the difference between, it's the 762, 701 that we're looking at there. And I would anticipate with 11 days to go till first day of classes, we'll see another increase and then probably a pullback after census Labor Day. So that's what we assume at least.
Anthony?
I just wanted to say, you know, Jeff and his team have done just a phenomenal job with this whole thing. And there's an aspect to this that I think gets lost, and that is that, you know, there's a lot of talk about college promise programs all across the country. But most of those programs have very, very strict criteria to get into it. I mean, it might have a GPA criteria of 3.0 or something like that in high school. It may have some kind of income barriers or whatever it might be. The thing that's so brilliant about this Promise program is that they've opened it up for everybody. It doesn't matter if you come from a rich background, poor background, you're black, you're white, you're whatever. I mean, this is open to all comers. And I think it's a stroke of genius, and I really appreciate that broad breadth that you've taken with this whole thing. And I think it's really a special part of the College Promise program.
Thank you. And we hope to learn a lot from it. So we'll be back talking about this incessantly is actually probably the right word. So.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
incessantly. I have one question.
Yes.
You mentioned that, you know, we've surpassed the 80% projection to the 92%, and those are full-time. Do we have a sense of what that means, the number of students who wouldn't have gone full-time but for this?
The number, and I'm now pulling this out of thin air based on my last memory of a conversation with Robert Ellis, was that approximately 2/3, 1/3 was the breakdown. 2/3 of our local students who came here started part-time historically, and 1/3 went full-time. So if that is true, this is a near tripling of that percentage. And is that correct, Robert? Yes. Okay, great.
Okay.
I could have just not talked about you, but actually looked at you as I said that. I realize that now. So that's probably the biggest impact on FTES and other things. And that 12.3 number I didn't mention out loud, but the average unit load as of now of those enrolled students is 12.3 units. So that takes into account everybody, and so I assume in that mix is folks that are up at 16 and those that are not yet at their minimum requirement of full-time.
So we have a substantial increase in the number of full-time students, and that touches on FTES, and it touches on student success. From what we understand, students who go full-time are much more likely to complete.
And that's the reason we designed it that way, is because all the research suggests what you just outlined, absolutely.
Okay, so that's great. I mean, these are wonderful results. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, our next item is a report from Anthony on a follow-up on the board retreat, and I just wanted to mention that we had a lengthy retreat, and I think a very valuable one. Many of us learned a great deal of information. We had some time to sit down and absorb an excellent presentation by Paul on enrollment and related revenue issues, and giving us a real sense of who we are as you look at our students that we had not previously had an opportunity to learn. And so thank you, Paul. And also, we spent a lot of time on budget issues. We have broad concerns, of course, about the long-term trend of enrollment going down, expenses going up. And we asked Anthony to take steps to conserve resources pending kind of a big picture third-party look at how our finances are and getting some management advice from FICMAT. And that's later on the agenda, but that's the group that will, I think, be the experts in the field statewide to give us a look at where we stand and give us some recommendations on going forward. We also asked Anthony to hold up on getting the bid walks and that sort of thing on Campus Center till today, and that was under the umbrella of conservation of resources. And now we are going to hear back from Anthony on what has happened since the retreat and his thought process.
Well, your specific charge to me was to look at the facilities projects that we have and determine whether or not there might be some cost savings in the idea of delaying some of those projects. And so what I did was I spent time with our team here talking about where we are on the projects, where they are relative to completion and those kinds of things, and whether or not it made any sense at all to delay some of those. And so we looked quickly at the West Campus and the bookstore, and quite honestly, those two projects are well along. I mean, as you know, the West Campus, you can see that structure, the skeleton's up, and it's moving forward. To stop or pause that project right now, we determined would be more costly in the long run. And actually the same thing with the bookstore. You may not realize it because you can't see the inside of it, but Joe took me on a tour of the bookstore project and went in and looked at it, and it's been completely gutted. The roof or the ceiling's been taken down, and they're well underway as well. The West Campus is 38% complete right now. And in talking with Julie, it is on time and on budget. So we feel good about that. A lot of times, at least in my experience, and Julie and Joe can talk about this too, but at least in my experience, it's in the foundational work is where you kind of find the problems. Things will come along that you'll end up digging up pipe or, who knows what you can find in the dirt. But that's where the problems usually come up. And once you get to where we are now, like in the West Campus, that's pretty standard and going forward and predictable, I guess, which is a big part of what we're talking about. The bookstore, that's a modernization remodel, so that should be straightforward. Not going to find probably a lot of problems there. So both those cases, my recommendation is to definitely not pause and to continue forth like we are. The campus center, because we are at the very front end of that, initially we were thinking that there might be some area in that we could potentially save some money in delaying it, but boy, I'll tell you, the more we got into that, the more I realized in talking with Craig Price, with my team, with Chancellor's office and such, that if you delay that, it's actually going to cost us much, much more than in additional costs and things that are going to be ongoing than just to go ahead and go forward with it. So my recommendation on the campus center too would be to not delay that, but to go ahead and have Lundgren move forward with the timeline. And also, one thing about that's kind of nice is that it will give us an opportunity to look at the bids when they come in, and we'll have a bit of a pause to be able to kind of look and see where we are. I really wanted Joe to come forth, if you wouldn't mind, Joe, and kind of talk about the, I guess, unintended kind of consequences that could take place by pausing the campus center. And there's many, kind of things that go on with that. It's like a domino effect. And you just may not realize all the things, so I'll let Joe talk about that.
As far as the ongoing costs and what we're looking at there is that when there are certain costs that we're going to be incurred because we're leasing a tent as the replacement for the cafeteria. And we need that in place to continue moving forward, but once that's in place, it's costing us $10,000 a month. We have a place on Mason Street that we're renting for storage and for both cold storage for food service. and dry storage for other areas of the campus center. That's about $6,000 a month. Those are ongoing. We do have Lundgren, and we would need to retain at least some of their services during that because we don't want to lose them as focus on that. And so there are those ongoing costs. The primary issue with a delay is that we can't, if a 1 month delay really becomes a 5 month delay. And the issue there is that we can't move the campus center. We can't move them out in the middle of a semester. And everything's timed to occur right now, that if we go through, it's perfect. If we don't mess up, that we can move everybody out starting the first week in December. If we delay that, then we go into the semester without having moved anyone out, then we are, then we have to wait till the end of the semester. So then when you back the schedule up there, it creates a full 5 to 6 month delay. And that was what, when we looked at the scheduling, that was our most critical aspect of it, was we only have that 6 week period in December, January to move everyone out, get them into the swing space, get the swing space, the finals up and going. And then we have the timing, just the timing that we're working on the projects. Right now we're trying to get the tent in place. We're trying to get the stadium, above the stadium, that remodeled. We're getting the barbecue trailer. We're going to be bringing that on campus in the next week or two because that's going to take us several months to get in place and up and running. And so when you look at how we're moving forward, again, those are all costs that we're incurring, that if we stop it and we end up with that delay, that's the issue.
So my recommendation is that we continue forth without delay on all three of these projects. With the campus center, we'll have an opportunity to look at the bids, and that's kind of the wild card, really. The bids, we're not sure where they're going to come in. I mean, they could come in exceptionally high. They could come in about where we're thinking. I think that the kind of overwhelming thought right now is they maybe end up a little bit higher than what we expected. I mean, costs have gone up. This has been going on for a while now, so who knows what could happen with that. And so I think that's going to be a time for us to pause and take a look at what we have and where we are with those bid estimates.
And how does that line up? I think that the fundamental issue we were struggling with in the retreat is that we would like to get that big picture view from FCMAT to inform us and not have to make a decision on bids before we knew what advice we were getting. So how does that line up now?
Well, the timeline for bids is the end of October, and you all as a board would make your final decision about approving the winning bidder. I think it's the first couple weeks in November. So in terms of timeline with FCMAT, I think it actually meshes quite nicely.
Okay. So that particular benefit is already in place, even if we go forward right now?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So the timeline works.
Any questions, anyone?
No, I mean, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Beebe, that you know, that the college, as always, has, looked at all options and that stewardship continues to be priority. And so I just think that that's good, that all these things were thought of and that there can't be, oh, well, did you guys think about that? Did you think about that? And that this board took, a real discussion on questions that could come up and that we can say, yes, we thought about it and everybody came to the conclusion that it was best to proceed. So thank you for taking care of that.
Yeah.
Glad to do it.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
We appreciate it. And I'm sure it's an ongoing, it doesn't just get to stop right now. Everything keeps moving. Speaking of FCMAT, the next item up is business services action items, and that's probably Joe over again.
I thought I was preliminary.
Oh, am I skipping? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the bottom of the wrong page.
5.3.
5.3. That was a little fast. Sorry, Lindsay.
Good afternoon. I do have a handout for you that Angie has. Did you give it to him? Okay, great. If anyone in the audience would like it, you can come down.
We do?
This one?
This one?
Yeah.
You had it earlier.
And we can post it later. Yeah.
Okay. Hello. Nice to see you all. I was on
Hello.
vacation, so I feel like I haven't seen you in a long time. I missed the board retreat. So I understand that at the board retreat, there was a lot of discussion about these items already, about the attached items, the 3 documents. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about those. What was planned per the budget development timeline was to do a very preliminary budget discussion on Monday, just the past Monday at fiscal, and that was canceled because the board retreat did take place the week before. So I just wanted to point out this is a very preliminary. Normally, I'm not presenting to the full board at this time on such preliminary budget numbers, but considering the changes in the schedule, that's what we're doing today. And I'm going to start with reminding everyone about what happens next after this. The August 25th board meeting is when you'll see you'll see final budget numbers, because as I've said, these are very preliminary. And then fiscal committee will see them on September 6th, CPC on September 6th as well. And then the board will adopt the final budget on September 9th. It has to be adopted prior to September 15th, so that's why it's done at the first board meeting in September. Okay, so just a reminder of the process that's coming. Okay, so if there aren't any questions on those 3 documents that are posted online, is that okay? Do you want me to kind of move
I
to the
actually think
handout?
we didn't cover those in the retreat.
Oh, you
These
didn't?
changes, these particular changes were, I think, new to the board.
Well, I did.
Well, I mean, we had the general information, but we didn't get an explanation of what's going on with the changes from the tentative to the final, which is, I think,
Then I'll
what
go through
we
them.
wanted to
We're
hear
waiting
about.
No
for you.
problem. You were waiting
Yeah.
for me, how nice.
Yes.
All right. Then I may have misspoke, Liz, they may want it up. Let's start with the revenues. It's the one with the green. Yes, thank you. Okay. This document is the same information that's been presented a handful of times. In fact, there's a list of all the places and times it's been presented. There's only one change to the budget at this point on the revenues from the tentative to today. And what that is that one line item, you can't really tell it's bold, but there's the bubble going to it that's the adjustment made after the tentative budget. And that's a $592,000 decrease in the revenues we're expecting from non-residents. And that's due to the declining enrollment and the latest projections we have on non-resident FTES. So that's the only change to the revenues. Okay? Good? All right. Can you flip to the expense one? Looks like this. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So these are the detailed variances of the expenses, also a document that we've reviewed quite a handful of times. And there are 4 changes there, those ones kind of highlighted in bold. I've been sharing with everyone that we are working very diligently with a new salary budgeting tool that we've been using, and crunching and crunching and crunching. We continue to crunch today and yesterday, and we will tomorrow, to get these numbers really accurate using the new system. We're quite happy with it. We're learning it, but it is a learning experience for us. But it is looking to be much more accurate than our prior system, which is great. But the changes that have resulted from the tentative budget to today are these 4 here. Academic salaries, very small adjustment of $41,000. I'm expecting to have more adjustments there as we load the specific people that have been hired recently, their information. Classified salary, another adjustment of an additional $185,000 in expenses. And then the largest change is on the employee benefit side, so that's PERS, STRS, workers' comp, all the fringe, health and welfare. We are, at this point in time, showing almost $1 million increase in expenses in that area. And then one other decrease in our expenses is due to an accounting change that we were working year-end to determine exactly how it would look. So it wasn't in the tentative budget, and that's a decrease of $280,000 in expenditures related to the School of Culinary Arts. All it is an accounting change. We worked with our new auditors to determine how to do it properly, and it's just moving the money out of the unrestricted general fund and putting it in a different fund. So overall, it's not a change, but it does make our unrestricted general fund expenditures look lower by $280,000. So those are the changes on the expense side. Okay? All right. If you can go to the third one, you can see it all rolled up, and then we'll go to the handout, and it'll all come together. Okay. So what is changed on here, and I apologize, in one of the bubbles, the numbers got cut off under culinary. It should say that there's $280,000 reduction there. But what this is just showing is that under revenues, we have that decrease of 592. Under expense, we have our increases and then the decrease related to culinary. And when we get down to the excess of revenues before transfers, that number is now $1 million, whereas before it was 2.5. And the excess after transfers is now a negative 3.1, whereas before it was, where did it go? A negative 1.6. So the decrease in revenues, the increase in expenditures does make the deficit higher than it was before. And now we can, that's my segue right into this new handout that I did. You can see the variances on this handout between the tentative and the current estimated budget in each of the areas. That first tan box is what I'm focused on first. Let's talk about the revenues next. Do you guys have any questions about that top section? No?
So we're looking at the tan
Yes.
on the handout.
Yep.
What you're doing is you're basically saying we have less revenues, 592,000, and more expenditures, 946 roughly. And then we have the combined 1,038,000, right? When you have
Net.
less coming in and more going out.
Yes.
So that's a combined negative. Transfers stay the same. And the expenditures that we take from reserves go up by that 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got it.
Any questions here, folks?
Okay, so then I just wanted to provide a little bit of revenue information here. I'm sorry, reserves. In the green section, this is just showing that per the tentative budget, our beginning balance of reserves was 25.4, and then with the deficit of 1.6, it would go down to 23.8. So now that we have a revised deficit of 3.1, we're going from 25.4 million beginning reserve balance down to 22.3 million. So you can see that same variance of 1.5 over in the right hand of the green as well. And what is sort of more important with that information is going into the blue box. If you jump down to the bottom of that blue box where it says undesignated reserves, that is the amount that we are above the board policy minimum amount. So in the tentative budget, we were 3.3 million above the board policy, and the current estimated budget, we're falling at about 1.5 million over the policy. Those numbers do adjust slightly because the policy is based on our budgeted expenditures. So you'll see the state mandated contingency of 5% and the additional 15%. Those numbers fluctuate slightly as our budgets go up or down. So that's why those numbers fluctuate. So this gives you an idea of how much above our board minimum policy we are looking at being at right now, this 1.57. Okay?
Any questions, folks? Can I clarify a couple of things, see if I've got it right? First off, we have this, well, it's a little scary to hear that this is a more accurate software if we've got $1.5 million change.
Yeah.
Could you maybe explain where you think the change of the $1 million in benefit adjustments came from?
I can explain it. What I'd prefer to do is finish the numbers and do a new variance for you that's going to be accurate, because if What I tell you now may change tomorrow because we keep on finding more and more things. So I'd rather just do a whole new variance for you compared to actual, because the actual is what makes a big difference. This presentation, we're comparing our tentative, when I say this presentation, like this one, all the variances are compared to last year's budget. So when we compare actual to this year, last year's actual to this year's budget, that gives us a better idea of really where our budget should be and where issues were. Because the last year's budget, of course, did not line up exactly perfect. Overall, we did pretty well. Our benefits were lower than the budget, but when you get into the details, some were higher, some were lower. So it's better to really look at the actuals and compare that. So I'd like to do that at the next meeting if I can.
Well, I'm not so interested in the exact numbers as whys. Why did it happen that way? Is it an issue with just the modeling, and if so, do you know where? That gives us a budget number. And we had a budget number for June. We now have a different budget number, whatever it is, for looking at the final, by about $1 million. Obviously, that may change further, as you've said. But I'm trying to get at why, and did it reflect, for example, the checks we wrote for people's benefits? Do we have to write more checks, or is it just a modeling issue?
It's just a modeling issue, I think is the best way to describe it. This new tool we're using, we went live with it during this budget season for the first time. This was our first time using it. So we've had a lot of kinks to work out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a kink that we get to fix and then it doesn't happen anymore?
That's hard to answer.
Yeah, it's a budget. Budgets are constantly being refined. Maybe kink is not the right word, but yeah, we're constantly refining them and updating them. For example, right now, we're looking at budgeted positions we had in the system that have just been filled. So we now know exactly what those positions are going to cost. In the budget, we didn't know what they would cost when it was the tentative, as an example. So those kinds of things. The more we learn, the more accurate we can make them.
Anthony?
One thing I was going to say, you kind of made reference to the budget modeling process versus like payroll.
Right.
You know, there's a difference there. So what we're seeing here isn't going to necessarily affect somebody's paycheck. I mean, this is the plan. A budget is a plan, and we've got a plan out here, and that could change. It's malleable that way. But in terms of people's checks and that kind of thing, those have been accurate and not affected by the budget model.
Yeah, well,
Did I say that
that's
right?
Yeah.
good to understand, because I don't want people unnecessarily wondering if their check was for the right amount.
Right.
So, I think the charts are really helpful, and thank you. Really appreciate them. The last one that you handed out particularly helps see the numbers move through, and what the changes, how the changes impact the budget.
Thank you.
Anything else? No?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
I just wanted to note one thing, and that is this little box on some of them. There's a little box in the corner that tells where this budget has been, or where
I
this.
think you may not be
Yeah.
coming through. Oh, I mean, on the mic.
So what shall I do?
Keep talking,
Move it closer.
keep talking, they'll fix
I'll
you up.
pull up there. Okay, but anyway, there's a little box on the bottom, and I don't remember seeing that before, but I think it's really a great idea, because we see, otherwise we get these things to us here and we don't know that they've even been anywhere.
No, I can't take any credit for it. I think that's Lindsay and Joe that
Oh,
did
is that
that.
Lindsay? Okay.
It was before
It
me.
may have
but-
been there before, but I just hadn't really tuned into it before.
No, I think it is a great idea.
The little box in the corner.
Just
on
a little
some of them,
tracking
like on
box that
revenue.
talks about where it's been.
Who was it presented to, the date presented? I think that's a very helpful information, so I thank you for putting that on there. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Next item is employee survey of interest regarding the possible SERP option, and this is Priscilla.
Good afternoon, members of the board and President Beebe. First of all, I wanted to front a little summary of the results, which will not take long, with some background about how the survey came to be. And one thing that is a little bit unprecedented is that all of our employee groups, so that's the IA, the Senate, the CSEA, and the ALC, all agreed that it would be a good idea to conduct this survey, and we worked together in formulating the questions. So that's something that I think we are happy about. So we first heard about this SERP, and nobody knew what it was. So we love acronyms in academia, right? But what is SERP? So now we know, the Supplemental Employee Retirement Program. And for some of us, it's easier to think of it as something that incentivizes employees to consider retirement in that particular year. So we first heard about it at the July 22nd CPC retreat. And very soon after, and I want to commend the administration for supporting our efforts to get employee feedback about that, we planned and organized this survey. So the timeline has been very quick, and of course, a lot of that is following up on the budget discussions that have been coming very recently as well. And this is one of the cost-saving measures that is being proposed for your consideration. So the survey went out on Wednesday, August 3rd, about 1:15, immediately after the board retreat when you gave your approval of moving forward with the survey. And then we did the initial data draw at 10 a.m. on Monday, August 8th. So it was open for just 5 days, and keep in mind that this is summer, so many faculty are away. I wanted to acknowledge in particular, of course, that our Office of Institutional Research Assessment and Planning, which is Robert Ells, yes, and Melanie Rogers, are the ones who conducted the survey and made this very beautiful representation of the data. And also, I wanted to acknowledge as well that for those people who are considering retirement and looking at the SERP and adding their comments, I think it's important to recognize the contribution of our long-term employees. So this is, I want to formally acknowledge that. So a couple of things that stood out in looking at this. One is the response rate. It's really quite incredible in a survey to get a response rate of nearly 50% across all 4 employee categories. And keeping in mind the 5 days, and we're on summer break, so many of our faculty are not around, and the faculty response rate is 51%, so right in line with the other groups. Another thing that stood out, if anybody was comparing the Keenan projections in the packet that we received earlier, it's not part of this agenda, but the Keenan projections were that 22 staff members, 31 faculty, 3 certificated managers, and 3 classified managers would be likely projected to retire if a SERP were offered. And of course, this is a survey, and that we know that that doesn't always happen the way it's stated. But those numbers, with the exception of the staff employee group, those numbers are almost exactly in line with what their projections are. So perhaps that's an indication that they might be close. They might have an idea of what they're doing there. The staff group was significantly higher. So Keenan projected 22, and 32 people who responded to the survey in the staff employee group said that they would be more likely to consider retirement based on the SERP. So that's one difference. I wanted to point to questions 6 and 7 in particular. So question 6 was asking the employee opinion about this SERP, and particularly, do you support offering the SERP in 2016-17? And the vast majority of people who wrote an answer that was clear, such as yes, or I agree with it, or something like that, the vast majority were positive across all 4 employee groups. And although the comments that you have are not categorized by positive, negative, or neutral, but if you do look at that, and Robert has done some initial analysis, the groups are responding positively between 70 and 100%, depending on the 4 employee groups. So they're by and large positive about this possibility. And then for question 7, that was an open-ended question that we wanted people to be able to express their questions and concerns. And again, those remarks were overall positive. And there were three things that stood out when people had additional areas that were not just to say, great, I'm so glad you're considering offering this. One big group were people who had questions and they wanted to understand more specifics about the SERP. And so one vision that we had for the survey is that the questions people ask here can inform a Keenan or whatever happens next, whoever is going to be talking about this next, could inform them about what the questions are so that they will come in with those answers already when people have them. So that's good information to have. And the second group wanted a little more time. So there were a few people, not a huge number, but a few people wanted this SERP to be offered next year rather than this year. Or in 5 years, there was one request when that person planned to retire. So, you know. And then the third category that stood out for me was, and something that is really important, concerns about potential impacts on programs. And so we're all aware that with the, if the board approves this and the administration decides to move forward with this, that we're not planning to replace all of the people who retire. And so people are concerned about how we plan for that and what decision-making process will go into that. So that's something very important that the college as a whole work on together if we decide to proceed with that, because we want to make sure that our programs remain as strong as they were prior to this offering. So overall, the employee response, so the 308 people who responded to this survey have expressed a favorable view of possibly offering the SERP, and we're really appreciative of the administration and the board for considering, giving us the opportunity to give feedback and considering this feedback. Thank you.
That's very helpful, Priscilla. Any questions? Comments? I mean, it's an extraordinary response rate, I think.
Really is. But it's still open, right? The survey is still open?
Yes.
Yes, we're keeping the survey open till August 26th because many faculty do not return until in service and then might not be thinking about other things. And so the 26th is the Friday of the first week of school. And we do have Cornelia, our IA president, and I are planning a joint IA Senate plenary so that we have another opportunity for faculty to talk about this option together. So yes, it's ongoing. This was the initial data draw.
Was there any concern expressed about releasing preliminary data influencing the outcome of the next cohort?
No one expressed concern about that. I actually doubt slightly that the average employee is reading the board minutes and opening that attachment, but you know, I could be wrong.
This is shocking.
A very practical observation.
Oh, my God.
One thought that you touched on some very important issues, the program impacts, the generally positive response, and so forth. One thing that I think we have to continually make clear to folks is that, as I understand this, there are two steps. There is, well, or even three steps. There's the early decision-making so that the academic senate can rank the replacements. There is a later decision point cutoff if you don't make it by that first decision. And then there is a decision again by the institution, the board, whether to go ahead based on who actually signs up. So I want not to have everybody think, oh, I signed up, it's going to happen. It's, I signed up, we'll look at it, we'll see if it makes financial sense, and then we will know. And people who would not have retired had it not gone forward will be able to say, okay, I'm not retiring now if it doesn't go forward. So
Yes, that's a great point, and we'll make sure to reiterate that at our joint plenary. Right?
okay. And then today's decision is set for to retain Keenan to develop the program. It's not going to set the exact terms. Am I correct,
Exactly.
Anthony?
You know, what I'm hoping is that you all will direct me then to engage Keenan and Associates to move forward with the next process, which is, you know, we'll develop with Keenan the actual specifics of the offering.
Right. So to speak to Peter's concern, it's not going to be, oops, you guys who haven't answered the survey, it doesn't matter anymore. It does still matter, so,
Yes.
okay. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to vote in another part.
Okay.
The contract.
Where am I?
So,
Do I
Peter?
have your?
Oh, at the end of reports, Peter had a comment.
Right, as a point of personal privilege, I wanted to report that I attended a very special function, the 90th birthday of one of our original members of our faculty, Bob Kassir. And we had authored a small letter of testifying to both his competency and passion in the classroom, which was inspirational, certainly to me, and I think to countless other faculty over the years. And as you can see, at age 90, he hasn't changed a lot. He hasn't changed a lot, and his spirits were certainly where they have always been. And given half a chance, and a classroom and a lectern, he's ready to go.
That's good.
So happy birthday, Bob.
Thank you for
Thank you,
doing that.
Peter. I appreciate you bringing that up. Anthony, did you have something?
Just a point of order on the SERP. Do we need a vote, or do I have?
We're going to come to that right after, under the action items.
Okay.
So, yeah, with Joe, who is waiting patiently here.
I have 2 items for you this evening. They're both action items. The first is 6.1 is the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team contract approval, which, since it's brought forth by you,
Yes, so Anthony, your recommendation is to go ahead?
My recommendation is to move forward with that agreement,
Okay.
empower me to move forward with that agreement.
Yeah. And it's our understanding in our discussions at the retreat and as well that you will be able to add to, if you need to, for the scope of work here, to get the complete fiscal picture that we're looking for. So.
Yep.
I move approval for item 6.1, 6.2.
Second?
Second.
Craig, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And item 6.2 is the Keenan and Associates SERP contract, which we are presenting for your approval.
Okay, motion to approve. Jonathan, second.
Second.
Peter, any questions?
Yes.
Craig?
I thought we didn't vote on this to make a decision. Why are we
It's
voting?
just
We're-
the contract.
It's the
I'm
contract.
sorry.
It's the contract for
Yeah, but
Keenan.
we're not paying them anything yet, are we?
Well, they don't get paid unless there is a program, is under the fee section. But
Yeah, but-
they do go ahead and organize the program and work with Anthony to run scenarios, and then we get an actual proposed program. This does not specify exactly what the program will be, just agrees to work with them to develop it.
To engage them, scope of work yet to be determined.
So if we decide not to
Right.
go with it, we still going to owe them fees for their efforts, I would assume.
No, there are no fees in here for that. The fees, if you look, as I understand the fees, Keenan invoices us for the service fee, and the service fee is not a commission. We pay them
Whether we go with it or
when
not.
when there is.
Yes, when there's a plan, if and when we implement the plan. So
Right.
on December 8th, if we feel that it's fiscally viable, that it's a program we want to go forward with, we make that decision at that time. And that's when
Right.
they essentially, their fee is based on the total program, so there's no way to really calculate it till we have the final numbers and get it in place. But in the interim, they are performing under the contract in that they do have to conduct the interviews, do the presentations, and as you said, provide the different scenarios, and work with us on coming up with what the final program looks like.
Their fee is based on the number of participants. There's no way of knowing the number of participants until we actually make the offering and have people sign up for it. And then once we understand how many people are interested in participating, then we'll be able to make a decision about a no-go or go decision about whether or not it works out for the college. So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing to a certain extent because we just don't know how many people are going to participate until we make the offer out there to the employees.
And
But
they
it-
are at risk. If we don't go forward, they don't get a fee.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, what you're getting at, Craig. The
Yeah.
service fee is
I'm just
5%
questioning
of
the
what
need
we...
for a contract when there's no agreement to
What-
pay anybody anything. I guess what it does, it's a benefit to Keenan because it locks out competition because we're committed only to them.
I think
No,
it's
Is
like,
that an incorrect statement?
I think it's like other economies, that we're entering in a relationship with them, and so it gets the ball rolling, it gets things going.
It does. It commits us to working with them because they are going to put in this effort up front to assist us and to perform under the contract. And it's true, much of their service is up front.
Yeah, I would look at it the other way. I think we benefit and they don't get paid until there is an affirmative decision to offer this program. They're doing it on spec until that point, thinking that we will. But
Which would be normal and done anyway. It's a normal business practice. Why?
probably not.
I suppose
to
this
this
is like,
degree.
has been an established method, a way to deal with this
Yes.
in this field.
You're right, Craig.
In my real world experience, not anything to do with the educational world, there's no need for a contract. There's nothing being done here. There's no exchange. They may be giving us some services, but they're vying for business. And we haven't agreed to pay them yet or committed to pay them. We can say, no, we're not going to do it.
Right. Yeah, you're right. We haven't
Yeah.
committed to pay them yet because
I guess it's just a matter of norms in this particular field.
This
Okay.
crazy world of education keeps just getting me.
Sometimes I learn new things. I still don't see any really good reason for
Greg,
it.
I think it's a matter of outlining in some detail what it is that they're going to do. And I'd certainly, I wouldn't want to say, yeah, go do something, but without telling them what it is that we want them to do. So I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, it's-
Yeah, there's some specific things they
I-
have to do.
I see that, but they would do that anyway. If they want the business, they have to earn it. And, I mean, what we're doing is we're locking ourselves into them. And I suppose that our staff had looked at other companies that offer this.
Yes.
And we didn't see any competitive quotes or we just saw one presentation. At least I didn't notice anybody else's or see any other names on the list.
No, we went with, it's the consultative process. You look at who's out there and you make a determination on who you can work with. And Keenan was the one who we were most familiar with and is very familiar with our area and has worked with us on other projects. And so
frankly, they're
chose
the most experienced at this particular genre of offering. There's a note somewhere in the packet, I think, that talks about all of the community colleges that Keenan has worked with over the years, and it's,
I saw those,
mean,
and
and so,
I
I mean,
did see
it's
those
specialized.
references. I just didn't see any names of any competitive companies that we looked at or that you did. And I'm not saying you didn't duly process it. I just go, okay, I don't know the names of any other companies that do this. We're not agreeing to a contract, agreeing to pay them, and you want me to vote. And I'm still don't see a good, valid reason for me to vote.
Let me try this. What is going to happen here is that our employees will make their initial decisions about whether or not to retire, given this program, after it gets firmed up on the scenario. And somebody is going to counsel them about those decisions, and that's going to be Keenan under this contract. We wouldn't want 4 different companies counseling them in competition in some way. That would be pretty messy. you know,
Free
I just
marketplace. I
don't
don't
know.
know what's
Well, I
messy
mean,
about it,
you
but
can't
okay.
do that with your employees. You know,
can.
you want to come to 4 counseling sessions? I don't
Yeah,
think
if they
so.
want it, they might get the best deal by getting 4 quotes.
I-
But, okay, I'll go with the norm. These are just questions that I feel are reasonable. Nobody seems to agree with me, so I'll let it go.
Let me also ask Anthony.
I have respect for my colleagues.
Anthony, I wanted you also to comment on the price, the fee
Oh,
for the annuity.
the fees for this kind of service typically run 6% or more. Had a chance to talk to Craig Price about it, who has a fair amount of experience with SERF in the K-12 arena and some community colleges around the state. And he was saying that, you know, typically it's a 6% or 7% fee that they charge. What we were able to negotiate with Keenan was a 5% premium for this, for their services. So they came down, you know, a fair amount.
I would expect that the norm would be somewhere between 4 and 6, so at least you got in the mid-range. Good job.
Ready?
I talked to
I
Craig
know a
as
little
well,
bit
and-
about
yeah.
some of this stuff, I just don't know about this field.
Okay. So anybody else? Comments?
Well,
Peter?
I think this is probably obvious, and there was reference to it in the survey by at least one of the respondents saying, you know, yes, we're going to save money, and that's the whole point, but we also have to take into account a non-financial variable having to do with institutional history and just what makes this institution great. And that's a judgment that we can't make now, but we will surely have to make it at some point in terms of, you know, do we go with this or do we hesitate? But I, for one, will be very interested in that assessment by the faculty and by the administration.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, I think we have a motion and a second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Me.
Okay.
Thank you.
And,
Motion passed,
yes, the motion passed.
and that's okay.
Angie knows that. So now we move to the board goals and priorities discussion. And I attached to our discussion both a summary of our previous comments from last April on board priorities and some of the ideas that surfaced then, and they're tried to put them under categories, as well as the same attachment that I had before, which was the, do we have those, Angie?
Yeah, she's going to bring them up.
Okay, good. The same attachment we had before for that board discussion of priorities. Probably the summary of discussion is the one that makes most sense.
That's this one.
Yeah. So the topics, if I can read it crosswise, student success and access, community, and fiscal on that page. And I believe there was there anything, was there a second page on that one? Okay. And then beneath it are the ideas that were surfaced in the discussion as people talked about what those topics meant to them. So, I'm going to pick on Peter. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that the print is awfully small on this computer screen.
Oh, you can't go like that.
Veronica has younger eyes.
Well, I think highlighting Jeff's wonderful snapshot here, I think it would be probably in our interest to have a goal along our promise and just the efforts with him and his team, with our local students, and obviously continuing the efforts that are already underway with all our student populations, but specifically looking at what the data from the promise is showing. What do you guys think?
And you would put that under a student success,
Yeah.
focusing on promise and as one element of that.
I would add it to diversity as well,
Mhm.
because it addresses, it doesn't make any distinction. It applies to everyone.
Are you focusing there on employee diversity, student diversity, both?
I think student, you're talking about student.
Students.
Okay. Jonathan, any particular focus from your point of view for our goals as we look forward this year?
I think I'll just repeat. I remember the ones that I stated that made it onto this list, which are engaging to figure out which skills we need as a college to provide to people by 2025, and the housing issues, which it is under community focus, but I do want to see that also in a student success light, because housing affordability does play into student success. If you have to work 3 jobs or 2 jobs to pay for your rent, probably not going to do too well in school. So.
Okay. Marty, anything?
I think we need to add, I was just trying to compare all these papers, but add something about the continuing education, the CLL. Something really focused on that, because I just think there's such potential there for us to increase the number of people that are doing it, that are taking those classes and so on. And as Dr. Beebe has said, those people feed into, the college too as students. But I just think this community loved it before, and there's no reason why they wouldn't love it now if we can figure out how to do that. So I just think we should emphasize that. And I know the foundation, I think Jeff's left, but the foundation would really love to see that too. So I think with all of us pulling in the same direction, we should be able to make a difference there, especially with Dr. Beebe's knowledge.
Anthony, maybe you could comment on your experience from San Diego on the non-credit programs.
Well, one of the things that we worked on actually for about 8 years, took us 8 years to get there, so this isn't a quick kind of a program, but was this idea of transitioning non-credit students into the credit classes. And particularly the CDCP, the Career Development and College Preparation students, they sometimes didn't do well in K-12 and then come back and experience a non-credit class like a CDCP class, and then realize that this is a passion of theirs, this is something that they can be successful at. The college isn't the big scary place that they thought it was, and they then realize that the faculty are here to support them, the classified administrators want to see them succeed, and they then become part of the college process. And we actually in San Diego, and I was so proud of what we were able to accomplish there. The largest feeder to San Diego City College was not one of the local high schools, but it was actually the continuing education operation. And I just thought that was so amazing that we were able to make that bridge from non-credit to credit and have it be so significant for the credit college programs. So I don't know if that helps.
No, it does. I mean, I think it provides a perspective on Marty's comment, and your comment was also broader. I mean, there's an FTS component to this, there's a community component to this, there's a fiscal component to this. That all comes together in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Peter.
Well, under student success, I guess it is the second bullet down. Teaching students values such as tenacity that lead to success. But success is what? As members of the civil society. I think that is something that we've from time to time talked about, but it's nowhere else in this paragraph. So I'd like to add that.
Jonathan?
Yes,
If I could say a few more things. In terms of employee diversity, this might not be a board goal level thing, but if we do SERP, that does give us an opportunity to have a more specific plan for employee diversity. Also, I would like us to look into strengthening our partnership with UC Santa Barbara because it honestly is not good. So I think having a clear relationship between the two institutions beyond like a tag program, that really where the two can work together to educate people here. So I would say that. And then also in terms of the one for facilities, you know, delaying costs, you know, delaying the maintenance does increase costs in the future. If we could look into maybe like a capital campaign that's focused on student success related to facilities, like we can't probably raise capital for all our facilities, but we know that student success is important to a lot of people, and if we can identify which maybe specific needs facilities-wise for student success, that might be a way we could address a very focused way.
And that would be under the category of supporting the foundation as well
Yes.
as the Promise program, of course. Okay. I mean, community focus has been a theme I think we've returned to a number of times in our discussions. So I do see it, it's up there as kind of a general category. Any other things under that people come to mind that maybe we haven't mentioned?
Yes, I have one. I think I brought this up at the retreat, but looking into how we can include participatory budgeting, not specifically, but how the community can be involved in the visioning for the long-term financial health of the college. So not like the nitty-gritty, but having them involved in how we prioritize our funds, like in a clear, specific way, not just, hey, let us know, but have a specific system for them to plug into.
So you're getting at both the transparency and maybe the communication part of those?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I think that's in general, I think the public doesn't understand. I mean, school finance is so complicated. I mean, you hear, even the PTOs are raising all this money and they don't understand, well, why can't the school district just provide, So I think of what Mario did for us, which was so, he took such a specialized discipline and brought it down, brought the Lexile down to a 7th grader, but just very clean, that you can understand. So I just think the general public, I mean, that might be something as in our community area that maybe as we, are out in the community, that would be something that we, one of the first education pieces of how our community college is funded and why does Jeff seek your support? And, so I think that, but not at the level that Dr. Beebe gets it, because even what Mario gave us was a very trustee level, which we were able to swallow and it was perfect. And then the community may even get a different, because now you're talking to just Joe, your next door neighbor, and, like that. But that would be good. But I was thinking when you said about UCSB, one of our biggest ways that we could partner with, and that would be under the Student Success Promise, is, UCSB does a great job being out there in the community with the local schools, and you see UCSB's outreach at Franklin, like at least 2-3 times a year, and I'm always surprised to see UCSB's presence in the community out there with the students, and so I know that is something that they do really well. Is their people being out in our local high schools, in our local communities, and having designated staff. And so maybe our partnership starts with just some of the folks that are already engaging in the same work that's helping fulfill our mission, and that way it organically kind of then, filters out into then other areas and things like that. So I don't know, that just kind of made me think of that.
Craig, did you have a comment?
Yeah, a couple. I think, first, I was intrigued by what Jonathan just said, but I'm not of the opinion where I want to ask the public to be involved in the budgeting or the emphasis. Instead, I don't really want to go there unless they want to learn. I mean, we're transparent. They can access, what's on board docs, what's on our website, but and they can talk to us and ask questions. But I'm very, very much in favor of receiving their input, their ideas, and hearing from them. And I think that one of our specific goals needs to be to establish channels of communication so they can basically leave us emails like to the whole board, or that they can write us letters easily. Some way they can say, oh, I saw something in the paper. What are you guys really doing? And then sort of, and maybe it could be a two-way street, like a blog that goes on. I don't know. I'm not going to plan it. I don't get paid for that. But we have an employee right over here that knows, quite a bit about it.
Actually, you only have one employee, and it's over there.
It's over there. Okay, well, he has that employee item. Okay, I think that, I meant we as a collection here, we have the talent to try to do something here maybe, and we just don't have the specifics of the plan, but I sense a desire to be more open and to give people more channels to be able to ask questions and communicate their wants, desires, and needs. And I have one other point along the same lines, but not really. I'd be interested in learning more specifically how we are discovering the needs in the community, like what do the local business leaders and companies and businesses, what do they need? How does that program function? I don't want to change the plan personally. I don't want to direct it. I don't get paid for that. I would just like some information on how we do that. And just so I have a better sense of how we're really listening. So it kind of goes along with the first point. And no matter how good we are, when you stand back and look, maybe we could have done it better. And so that's what we're trying.
At the board level, it strikes me on your first point that we're probably asking for assistance in becoming more effective in communicating. I mean, to a certain degree, it's us going out there and communicating, but there are other things that maybe we can be helped with, like not only Mario's presentation, but Paul's presentation was just wonderful. And if there were opportunities for the community to hear some of these things and understand the college better as a result, I think that's great. We've had complaints. I mean, this is a laundry list. We've had complaints in the news media about, I don't know where to find a board meeting agenda. Maybe that could be made more transparent in some way. It's not something we're personally going to do, but it helps communication. I noticed when we were trying to publicize Anthony's survey as he arrived that we don't have a listserv of people who have said, I want to be on your email list, SBCC, a community listserv that we could email. That gets to communication. So some stuff I think I see us doing, others we need help.
And those are certainly things that we can work on. We've actually, the staff and I have talked about that, so we're kind of in sync that way.
Peter?
Well, to return to Jonathan's point, I think what he has in mind is that we're open to input. I don't want to second guess the public expertise or lack thereof. If there are people in the general public who want to have input and who have the knowledge with which to make input, I think they should be at liberty to let us know what they think. And at the very least, the fact that we invite them, I think, should be helpful. And if they come away from that experience never wanting to touch another budget again as long as they live, okay, then they have learned something that has been out there, that things like this, where we're spending almost $100 million of other people's money, is complicated, and that we take it seriously. And maybe I should stop there. I think let's not think that the people who we serve in this community are just don't know what they're doing, because sometimes they do.
No, I certainly didn't mean to imply they don't, but it's not really simple either, so.
No, absolutely.
Well, speaking also to Craig's second point about communicating with the community about their needs, educational needs, whatever, that's, again, I think we don't generally do that personally. We may hear stuff, people may come to us with that. But it does remind me of our discussion at the retreat about, to the effect that the budget is a policy document. And that circles back, you know, if we are meeting community needs with what we offer, it's in our budget. And so that kind of circles.
Yeah.
So then do we have, oh, I keep turning this off. I said I keep turning this off. So then under fiscal, we have then, I guess under fiscal will then come enrollment and we have planning for long-term fiscal stability, effective management. So yeah, I mean, so then from here, do we just, a couple board members work to write them up and then bring them back to work
Yeah,
on them?
I think,
Okay,
I
so
think we
let's do
do.
that.
I mean, I don't want to skip over some of this stuff because I think, you know, that was a preliminary discussion, but at the same time, we spent a lot of time on fiscal in the retreat. I think it's kind of a given already in our
That's what I'm
minds
saying,
that
yeah.
this is part of what we need as a goal. And pulling together our fiscal planning and long-range planning and, you know, really the whole process there is well underway, but it's a goal. And at the same time, I think the enrollment issues that we discussed and with Paul's help, that leads us in the direction of scaling the college, figuring out where we should be. And I think that, for me, that also ties back to the community, because part of our scale is how the community sees us, as well as how we analyze ourselves. So I think we hit on some of these things already, and I don't want to shortchange the discussion or draw it out when we've already pretty much hit those topics.
I have one more
Okay.
point. It's really kind of mundane, but on the second to last line under fiscal, or third line, the third dot there, efficient use of resources, comma. I think maybe the comma should be a period. I don't like looking at negative words when I'm looking at something like this and the word can't is right there. And I'd like to delete can't afford to do everything we want and just put a period or even a exclamation point after the word resources.
Should we write a goal like that?
I would recommend that's a better way to, more positive way to put something in writing.
That's fine. I have no problem. Anthony?
I just wanted to emphasize that the efficiency idea is a really critical one, and I think that we saw that in Paul's presentation about how we really need to make sure that we're as tight as we can when it comes to using resources in the best possible way we can. And that'll certainly help enrollment. It'll help the finance side of it. And Paul's already got a plan for how to make that happen, so it ties into what you're saying, Craig.
Okay.
And I would just return briefly to one theme that I think is, that I remember from when we, three of us at least now, got here in 2010, and that was that the college would benefit by, and I think it's a continuing goal, would benefit by talking about its overall unifying vision on a continuing basis. In other words, who are we? Who do we want to be? Who are we? Paul has told us a lot about that. Who do we want to be? That incorporates the scale, but there's also an element of focus, of values, that I think is an important discussion. It's not something we up here, we can participate, but we also need to hear back from everybody, from the college. So. Any other additions or thoughts? Okay. I'm happy to work on a summary. That's what that was. And anybody else want to be involved? Jonathan? Okay.
I can help you.
Okay. So we got three of us who are going
You
to
want help?
put it together. We don't want more than that. It gets to be too big a group to write something. So, thank you both. And I think that takes us to the end, doesn't it?
I want to say, Peter, when you mentioned, was it the professor that you were mentioning? Anyway, when Dr. Beebe asked, wait, aren't we voting? It seemed like we were concluding the meeting to like, and so anyway, because it was just such a nice, you know, kind
Oh,
of like,
I-
oh, wait.
yeah,
And
it-
so it
it
did
would have
seem
been a
like, wait,
wonderful
where's the other agenda? So anyway, but thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it was good.
I think, I was looking through our list, and the one thing that we haven't focused on is our internal family. I guess we have by implication,
Yeah.
but I sense sometimes we forget how fortunate we are to have the faculty and staff that we have who, you know, from, at every level. You know, when I used to come very early in the morning in order to get a parking spot, I would be greeted by the gardener, the groundskeeper. He'd know who I was, and I'd know who he was, and it was the sense of family that intrigued me, really, and I think it made everybody work just a little harder, a little more effectively, and keeping in mind why we're here. So, yeah, to see Bob Gassier being a happy guy at 90 is it's a wonderful sight.
Well, on that happy note, we are adjourned.
Thank you.